Hey guys, today I have a special guest, DannoTheArtist. He's a Twitch streamer, artist, musician, and he's going to school in the fall to be an audio engineer. We had a really great conversation, and he's a super nice dude. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome everybody back to Not Rich Just Bored, episode number 44. You got a nice even number there. I'm joined today by DannoTheArtist. Uh,
Hello,
do you
it's
want
me.
do you want to kind of just tell the people what you do, what you?
Yeah. So, as the name implies, we do a little art. I would say I do a little bit of like everything, I guess. So, I do art, I do music, I do video work. I used to do some short film work, and now I am in the process of streaming, which has been a lot of fun. Um, and in the future, in the spring, I'm actually going to be going to school for audio engineering. So I'll be a professional in at least one of the fields. But yeah, that's I kind of just do whatever creative things I can feasibly make myself do. I'm just a creative.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I heard you're going to school, and like you don't need to dox yourself, tell us where you're going, but
No.
you're taking,
Uh, yeah, so I'm going to a recording arts institute for audio engineering. So I'm super excited because I will be working in like a professional studio with like local musicians and stuff around the area of the city that I'll be partaking in. And yeah, not only working on music stuff, but also working with other people at that same school who are working on their short films because it's also there's like a film class and a 3D art class as well as a video game like design class. So basically, we get to do a lot of the audio stuff for them as well, which is super cool. So yeah, I'll be working with artists and other different creative types and maybe getting some inspiration as well on the side of actual experience. I'm very excited because I was not a big fan of school. I did not like school, and I never thought I was gonna go to school, and now I'm back, so it's pretty awesome.
yeah, it's one of those things where if you, this is exactly how I am, and some people think it's a symptom of ADHD, which it could be. I don't know.
It could be,
Never been officially diagnosed, but they said like if you, I'm the type of guy where if I don't like what I'm learning, I just don't learn. I just don't pay
Yeah,
attention. Like history, I found interesting, so I did really well. But then
right.
something like math, fuck math. So
Yeah,
I
no, that's fair.
yeah, I had like no passion for it or anything. So I'd just be like,
Well, it was the same for me. Because like when I was in high school, it was just a little bit different. Like for me, I didn't care for history just because like I don't know. It just was stuff like, okay, old timey stuff and whatever. Some of the stories were pretty cool, and like those ones I kind of latched onto. But if the story that was being told I didn't really care about too much, or like I didn't get a good way of engaging me,
yeah,
then my brain didn't soak it up, right? Like, for example, I learned a lot in my English class because, well, I had a really good teacher, so
yeah,
that also made it. And then we learned about interesting things. And sometimes, yeah, like shit was hard. Like it was hard for me to uh actually kind of pay attention or whatever. But because my teacher had me engaged or like believed in me and like was a positive influence, that also helps. Because like let's be real, like the teacher, similar to like a job and a manager, like they can make or break you doing this task that you kind of have to do, you know? And in terms of going to school now for like audio engineering, it's actually really exciting because it's just a 6 month program, but that's all I'm doing. There's no other courses, there's no other anything else. Literally, I go there and we are working on audio stuff day in, day out for hours on end, and I don't have to be pulled away from anything. And that's like, I think that would be more optimal if that's how high school was, but it wasn't, you know?
yeah, yeah. More focused.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, what exactly does an audio engineer do? Is that the guy behind the soundboard, or
Yeah.
are you holding the boom mics, or?
That too, yeah. So basically and I went to the school to like do a tour and everything. And he kind of went over everything with me, which is really cool. We get to do exactly that, holding the boom mic for like people doing their films. And then we also get to yeah, actually work behind the studio, like mixing and mastering songs for other artists or maybe even for ourselves, which is really exciting. Because I do make a little bit of music here and there, so I'm excited to do that for myself as well. And then on top of that, I think the really cool thing, and I keep forgetting what it's called, but in film as well as in video games, a lot of the time when they have to do a lot of the recording for sound effects and stuff, usually you have somebody in a booth with like these different props and materials making the sounds and recording the sounds. We get to actually do that. I looked in their booth and I was like, why do you have like a sand pit with like a rock and like whatever this other thing is? And he's like, well, if somebody is getting out of their car and they have to do like gravel, you're gonna step in that sand pit or whatever. I was like, this is awesome. So
Oh,
we even get to do that stuff too. And the craziest thing is when the school is all done, if you took the course, you get like a lifetime uh like you're able to enter that studio on like weekends like no cost or anything. So
oh,
it's
really?
pretty
Sweet.
freaking awesome. Yeah, I was like that's incredible because then if it's like, "Oh, I'm recording for like some local artist, they're going to pay me how much an hour?" And then like we go, "Okay, perfect. I go to that studio and it like, costs me nothing." It's really sweet.
Yeah,
A lot of opportunities.
that's awesome. They, what kind of music have you produced yourself? Like, what genre do you do mostly?
So usually it's like rap instrumentals is sort of the vibe that I go for. But to be honest with you, like I've I've dabbled a lot with like different sort of stuff. So I've dabbled with like sampling and like doing that, and it's really fun, but it also is kind of difficult because you really have to get an idea from like what you're hearing and go, "Oh, this sounds good sped up," or "This sounds good pitch shifted," or like, "Oh, I like this, clipping into this." But I've also worked on video game sort of instrumentals. So even one of my first like instrumentals that I did that was like a hip hop instrumental, it still sounded like a boss theme. And then back in 2020 when like the pandemic happened and everything, uh, I had a friend, so I lived in Vancouver for about a year, and I had a friend who was just done working at a video game company. And basically when they work in the industry, they most of them are just on contract work. So his contract was up, he was off, and he was like, "You know what? I want to do my own thing," because he had kind of been going from company to company at the time.
And
So he started
he was
he was
doing music.
no, he was just making his own game, like an indie game.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so he started working on that. And then he approached me because he was like, "Yeah, we need a music guy." So unfortunately, over time, I stepped away from that project just because a there wasn't actual pay yet. We were waiting and seeing if we would ever get like any sort of like budget, but we didn't have one. So we were all just sort of working for free, working away, whatever. And then it kind of got to a point where I had started streaming, and streaming was working out really well for me. And then I was like, okay, I'm actually like getting subs. People are donating every now and then. Like I'm actually making money from streaming. I love making music, but for the amount of time and effort that I put into it and money, I invested a lot of money into like my equipment and everything. I was like, "Hey, this isn't really working out and we're not getting anywhere." So I dropped from that project. However, I did make one song that I was very happy with, and it's the only song that's gonna be like a song that I made that gets into the game. But it's basically like the intro boss theme that you start with, and yeah, it's basically he gave me he was like, "All right, I want you to make a track that blends two genres or two sounds together." So he's like, "I want it to be an EDM track, but with orchestral elements in it." And I was like, "Okay, bet." And then I got started, and honestly, we worked on this song for, I want to say like 6 months. And even now, like after years after, because this was back 2020 to 2021, um, I still have like mixed it and like altered it just a little bit to make it a little bit better here and there. And man, it is still by far like one of the coolest things that I've ever created. Because I think with like art, you can sort of paint a picture or draw a picture, and you kind of see something visual, and you're like, damn, that looks good or visually appealing. But when you make something that like sounds really good, it's it's very different.
Oh
It's very
yeah.
different.
Do you have a copy of that we can listen
Yeah,
to after the podcast, or you can send me?
absolutely, absolutely. Can I just drop it into the
Yeah,
into your Discord here?
yeah. Drop her in
Absolutely, I
there,
will.
and I'll check it out after the podcast. And they it is true that like any of those, I find video game music is very underrated.
Yes,
It's
100%.
like I just look at like the works of like Nobuo Uematsu for Final
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy, like
Yep.
One Winged Angel and
Mm-hmm.
like songs like that. It's stuff
They're
that
incredible.
they're incredible, but no, like nobody's gonna know about that.
Yeah,
Like
that's the thing. They're
Kesha,
yeah, underrated is the word.
yeah, I don't think Kesha knows who that is or The Weekend.
Yeah,
you know,
probably not. Probably not.
I don't know. Kesha's kind of a bad example. I guess she's not really the limelight anymore. But
Yeah, but still, it is true. Like a lot of those people are uh underrated in like the I guess the celebrity sphere of like the music
yeah,
industry. But I think for I don't know, with the internet it's so different, but I think at least they're getting their paid respects on the internet. They're getting their paid
yeah,
respect somewhere. But it's true, like in the grand scheme of things and the the music elite or whatever, probably not getting their due respect.
no,
Um, but that's sort of the thing that I kind of enjoy about making music is like I would like to be someday that person that like bridges that gap, makes just good music in general.
that would be
And like
sick.
yeah, cuz like to me I enjoy a lot of like very normal, not I say normal, but normal in the grand scheme of like what the average person would listen to. I listen to a lot of just regular music, but video game music and soundtracks and everything have some, first off, on like a music theory level, have so much going for them, and then just on the different genre blending, or in the case of games like, and I've never actually played this game, I only know because I've watched videos on it, but
Mm.
games like Hollow Knight, where the music almost amplifies the story that like you kind of have to learn with the tones that are being made. It's cool. There's nothing like video game music, man.
Yeah, and
That's the truth.
I feel like the music has to set the tone of the game, and
Hmm.
the tone of like what level you're doing. And I know there's. Do you remember an indie hit called The Messenger? Do you,
Yeah, I actually haven't played that yet, but I
yeah,
have it. Yeah.
yeah, it's a great game. The music was done by Rainbow Dragon Eyes, I believe it's his name.
Hmm.
But it's
Yeah.
the music's actually on Spotify because I love it. I like that kind of old school, 8 to 16 bit, I guess you'd say, the
Yeah.
old school
Yeah.
music. And it's funny because like the way that game works, when you're at the first half of the game, it's 8 bit, and then
Hmm.
the second half of the game is 16 bit, and
Right.
it's actually like the music reflects that. And it's
That's
like,
very cool.
yeah, it's I always like, I'm not musically inclined, I guess, so I don't like, the whole process to me is kind of unknown. But it's just amazing that they can just come up with these things out of seemingly thin air and just
Right. Yeah. Well, it's cool too because like for me, a lot of times with visual art, I kind of get inspired by what I see. If I see like an art piece that I really like, I'm like, oh, I'd like to do something like that, and I kind of go for that. Or I have an image in my head of like a certain video game character. I do a lot of fan art, but in
yeah.
terms of music, for me, I've even had it where like inspiration will come in a dream. I'll like hear something in my dreams, and I wake up and I'm like, this is like a catchy tune, and then I would like record it with like my phone, like voice recorder, and then try to implement that in a song. It's a lot of fun, honestly.
Oh, that sounds like genuine inspiration, I'd say. Coming
Yeah, it's very cool.
coming to you in dreams, that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think that happens with everybody, but it has happened quite a lot with me. I'm also gonna. I think you should be able to listen to it in the Discord when we're done. But yeah, I put it there in your server there.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I'll have to
Yeah.
check that out. And so that's the first boss music from this
Yeah,
game.
from this game, yeah, and it's funny because he has the like in the demo they even implemented it. The only issue is it's I can only go over it kind of vaguely, but it's a RPG with like rhythm game mechanics
Oh,
as like the battles. So it's pretty cool. I think like from the last time I saw it, they had a ways to go, but I'm hoping now it's almost been, wow, I guess it's almost been 2 years since I like stopped working on the project. But I hope at some point I can see their finished project because, or finished product, sorry, because it's definitely a cool idea. But yeah, the song it went hard, man. It's still one of the few things that I'm like very very proud of, and I can like flaunt off, you know.
yeah. I'm excited to hear that. Truly,
Yeah.
and I hope your friend does do well with that game. Are they doing Indiegogo or anything like that, or Kickstarter?
Not at the moment.
They're
They
just funding it
talked.
themselves.
Yeah, it was self-funded. They tried to get a grant from like the I don't even remember what the hell it's called. In Canada, there's like an arts grant that you can get from like the government, which is pretty cool, the fact that it even exists, but you have to like you have to prove yourself. So even though like we had a big just everything he did was very professional because he actually worked in the industry. He made like all these different plan documents and stuff and sent it into like the government's grant fund or whatever. And we still didn't get it. I think we were a little too late. And then he tried again, and I don't know if like it worked out. But hey, hopefully, you know. But other than that, like if that doesn't work, I hope that he would start like an Indiegogo or like a Kickstarter or something. It's worked for other people.
Yeah, no, it sure has. There's a lot of issues with those two of scams too. There's a
Yeah.
lot of scams
Yeah.
on there too, so it's like people are like hesitant to use those things. But if
Hmm.
you have a real project and you got real things you could show off about it, I'm sure people would have no problem backing it.
Yeah, I think games are a little bit easier to back than, like these funny products like solar roadways or whatever.
Oh, solar
Like,
roadways, yeah.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
that ain't happening anytime soon.
No, no.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool though because just thinking about it, like when he asked me to do the project, I really was an amateur. And like even in the process of like working with him and everything, like he was very supportive and very critical too, which I think is super important. Like actually taking criticism is something that I don't think a lot of people can. And
yeah,
I'll admit there were some times that it kind of pissed me off because I'm like, dude, like I'm working hours on this and like, you know what I mean? Like it's never good enough. But every time he did that, he would give me an idea of like, okay, try and implement this sort of thing. And then like as I'm doing it, I get another idea and like it just sort of breeds that creativity. So even though in the moment, in the back of my head, I would have these thoughts of like, oh my God, like, all right, what am I gonna have to do now? It always ended up being a really good thing because I ended up making something way better. And I know for a fact there's a lot of people that like can't take that. Like if they got the criticism that he gave me, a lot of people would just like quit or be like, "Oh, I'm too stressed or whatever." And like that doesn't, that's not a bad thing being stressed or whatever, but uh I think that's something that having that little experience that I've already had, it will help me when I do go to school, you know?
yeah. I think that's the problem. Is I think a lot of people do have problems taking criticism, and
Yeah.
it's also a problem with people when they have experience in something, even a little bit, because then they almost think they're an expert. If you know what I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Or they're
easier.
they don't yeah, they almost feel like entitled to getting praise.
Yeah, it's easier in anything, whether it's like martial arts or a sport or music, anything. It's always easier to teach uh, a total beginner than somebody who has a bit of experience because there's
Yeah.
bad habits they got to unlearn. And yeah, like I said, sometimes they're stuck in their way and they don't want to admit they're wrong or they're too proud.
Yeah.
They pull a
No,
full they pull a full Vegeta on us.
it's very true. Yeah. No, it's I don't know. That's that's sort of the thing I'm excited to see is because it's also like it's a social experiment in a way. Is like meeting these other people and seeing how they react to their criticisms or how the way that other people do things, and then maybe learning good habits from them or learning what not to do from them. That's huge.
Yeah. I just hope when you're a sound engineer, I hope you're not doing the boom one day and somebody pulls an air horn into their Lavalin mic or whatever. Or
Yeah, no.
what are those things called? Linear? Are they Lavalin mics? The ones that are hooked up?
Uh,
They like clip onto your clothes. Like he's wearing a wire.
yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
I think
I
they're
don't
called
remember what.
I think they're called lavalier mics. I can't remember though.
Yeah, yeah, lavalier. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I don't know. Do you remember the old Canadian TV show Kenny versus Penny?
Yeah, I do.
They were doing a competition who could piss off more people, and Kenny blew an air horn into his little mic there, and his sound guy's like rips off his earphones, and he's holding his head. He's like 2 points. Brandon's pissed off. I
That
love.
show's a classic, man.
Yeah, so good. I definitely wouldn't. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want somebody to blow an air horn into the mic because I think the whole point of those guys with the booms is they're listening to the live audio to make sure it's recording and everything.
Yes, making sure that it's recording and making sure that like you're getting the subject in focus to be in focus audio wise as well. Um, yeah.
I noticed a lot of like maybe you can answer this. I'm a pretty big film guy. Like I've never
Mhm.
I've done YouTube videos, but that's about it. I haven't
Mm.
done too many crazy film projects or anything. I'd like to, but
Yeah.
I do know a thing or two about cinema and kind of cinematography and how it works and stuff. But
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of some of the modern boom mics they don't have that like the old ones had those fuzzy pop filters. Hey,
Yeah.
I noticed
Yeah.
that a lot of these new ones and some of the old ones don't really have those anymore. So I'm wondering if the sound filtering is internal on these new ones.
I'm actually not sure, to be honest with you, because yeah, even when I was in high school and we did like our films and stuff, our boom mics always had those like pop filters and stuff.
Yeah,
So
the big fuzzy ones. They look like brooms
yeah,
almost.
yeah, they're like fluffy.
Yeah, and then like my Yeti I used to use for YouTube, it had like a foam one, which
Yeah.
is normal too. Some guys use socks, but I noticed
Yeah.
the ones on like Kenny vs. Penny and stuff. They're just a mic. There's no like maybe they just didn't use pop filters. I don't know.
So I was gonna say it could also depend on the type of thing that you're filming. So like for something more cinematic, you would probably want a pop filter, so you're not getting the pops. The big fuzzy ones are actually to really get out. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out the word for it, but negate the outside audio so that it really hones in on the person speaking rather than like background audio. That's the word I'm looking for. In terms of something like Kenny versus Spenny, if they're using one without a pop filter, it's probably because of just the type of show that it is. Stuff's pretty chaotic at times,
Yeah,
so they probably don't have to worry about it too much. Sometimes it could even add to it hearing something in the background. So that's my assumption at least. But it really depends.
yeah. It could be the direction. Yeah, because like
Yeah.
the ones could be cardioid, which is like
Hmm.
where it's recording something right in front of it, and then there's the omnidirectional, which kind of records the room. So
Right.
and yeah, because they
Yeah.
kind of want to record the crew's laughter and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
would make
So
sense that they'd want like an omnidirectional.
yeah, exactly. That makes sense to me. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
oh, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, it's I have something I definitely want to talk about
Sure.
today. But if you had a question, I will gladly hear it out.
No, I was just gonna ask you about the art thing. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask, has anybody ever commissioned you to do like a Rule 34 thing?
So no, not yet at least. I think usually when people want like Rule 34 stuff for the most part, they usually actually go to like Rule 34 artists or artists on Twitter that like explicitly do explicitly do like
Yeah.
NSFW art, right? Some artists they make really really nice art. They're really good at drawing anatomy, but then they have to like explicitly say, I don't do NSFW. And then for me, I do a lot of fan art. So
Yeah.
I haven't really had anybody approach me with that sort of stuff yet. But I also am still, I would say, relatively new to the whole like commissions thing. Like I've done commissions since 2017, but last year I opened up commissions for like the first time and like kind of made it known to everybody, and people started like approaching me about getting art done. Um, so technically speaking, I'm still pretty new to it,
Yeah.
but you know, it could happen one day. We'll see. If that does happen, you know, I'll give it a shot.
Oh yeah. So you're not opposed to it though? If
No, I'm
some.
not opposed to it because it also it's I maybe this is like this shows the amateur in me, which is fine. Um, usually I take a lot of commission work as like an opportunity to kind of use it as a study and learn a new thing.
Yeah.
So, like for example, today I was doing sketches for my friend. He's getting we did our little subathon on stream, and we did a like a speed race in Breath of the Wild to get off of the first little area, the Great Plateau.
Oh
And
yeah.
we had our stakes. The stakes was if I won, he edited a video for me, and if he won, I would have to draw his like emotes and sub badges and stuff. Ended up doing the study for that today, and it was cool because like yeah, his profile picture is like a brain, and like I don't know. I've never really drawn a lot of brains. I drew his like profile picture and stuff, but still, it was like okay. I just sort of sketched it out and it looked okay, so I just went with it. And today, I kind of had a chance to use that as a study for what a brain looks like and kind of stylizing it in my own way and whatever. And honestly, I kind of just get to do that with most of the commissions that I do. Like somebody wanted me to draw a fox, so I was like, okay, well, now I get to learn how to draw a fox. um, you know, it's not the most professional thing, but I also don't know how to draw everything. Most people don't. So most people have their like bread and butter, like, oh, I draw girls or I draw anime people or I draw porn. For me, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I draw fan art and it ranges from anime to, you know, cartoon characters to whatever, really. I just, you know, it depends on what the thing is. It might take me more time. I might stylize it in a different way than I usually do. It's inconsistent, and I think that might be a problem, but people still come back, so it is what it is.
Yeah. I have one buddy that I went to school with, and he does. In particular, he just does furry
Right.
NSFW, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, furry and scaly. Like scaly is
Okay, yeah.
the dragon version.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not like again. I'm not into
Yeah.
that stuff. But
No, neither am I.
his art is beautiful though. Like he's fucking good. I'm like,
Yeah, that's the thing, and those, I mean, the furry art's where the money's at, man. Those people will pay top dollar for their fucking shit. It's awesome,
oh,
and I
it's
respect
crazy.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I am. I don't. I'm like it doesn't turn me on. That's not really my thing. But
Yeah,
like,
not
but I can.
not my cup of tea.
But you know, Picasso's not really my thing either. But I can admire.
Yeah.
I can admire his work. You know, it doesn't take an expert in something to see the beauty in it. So
Yeah.
I'm like shit. You know, if that's what gets you going and you like doing that, well, whatever, draw them. I'm sure
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
probably dudes out there that just draw dicks all day. That's their like they just
Yeah,
literally.
I mean, I was gonna say Michelangelo, all of his sculptures had tiny penises, and look at those things. They're like they're priceless.
Oh yeah,
I
like
like everybody loves those things, so
yeah,
you know, it might not small penises might not be your cup of tea, but you know, you can accept when something is art and when something is good.
if I was offered to have the Statue of David in my home, I would.
Yeah, we take those.
Yeah, that
Maybe it's not the exact same. Maybe I wouldn't take a bunch of furry porn, but hey,
yeah.
you know, it is what it is.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, you know, taste changes.
Yeah, grandma and grandpa come over. What's this on your
Yeah.
wall?
What?
Oh, that's alien species.
hmm It's art from a year that you won't know.
It was like I had this one artist that I bought some of her stuff. I can't remember her name. I think it was Taylor Quinn. I don't know. She's out of Canada, not local to where we are, but close to us. And
Right.
she did these weird drawings, and it was anime girls, but they were in like a style of Pokemon, but
Oh,
like the Pokemon. It was weird because it was like a combination. It was like an anime chick that had Pikachu ears, and she had two swords, but the hilt of her swords were Zapdos heads.
what the fuck?
And then
That's awesome, but
yeah,
that's weird. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, and then the Zapdos beak was like the sword, the sharp end,
I want to see this. This
the
is
blade.
cool.
Yeah, my brother. I think my brother has it somewhere. I'd have to look and see if I could find it. But she did a lot of. It was really abstract, but it was basically. It wasn't like Moemon where there was actually.
Yeah.
You've heard of that?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. That was where the guy did the whole Pokemon game with only they were turned into anime girls
Yeah.
for people who don't
Lollies.
know. Yeah, like lolicon stuff. But
Yeah.
but no, this was more abstract. It was basically like the Pokemon were like the armor on the
Yeah,
person.
that's unique. That's unique.
Yeah, definitely cool. I'll send you a picture of it after, but I have one of her pictures on my wall of she drew Ghastly Haunter and Gengar, and it's like a really dark, kind of eerie
Right.
feel to it, like a dark vibe, I
Yeah.
guess. And
No, that's cool.
I love it, love it. But
No, that's awesome.
what did you want to? You said you wanted to talk about something.
Yeah, so it's a little. I don't know when this will go up. Maybe it'll go. Maybe this will be dated whenever this podcast goes
Well,
up. But
the podcast
uh,
should be going up tomorrow.
okay, so this is perfect.
Yeah, October 6th.
So tomorrow, or I guess technically today, when people are watching it or listening, October 6th, or beyond that, we're getting the trailer for the Mario movie.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah, I was just did you see when they like announced the casting for that last year?
Yeah, it was Chris Pratt as Mario, right?
Yeah,
And then
Chris Pratt Mario, Donkey Kong is Seth Rogen,
Seth Rogen, yeah.
Bowser is Jack Black, Charlie Day is Luigi. The
Yes.
chick I forget her name. The chick from Queen's no, not Queen's Gambit. Yeah, Queen's Gambit. Chick from Queen's Gambit is fucking
Peach.
Peach. And then my favorite, Keegan Michael Key is Toad.
Yeah.
It's gonna be so good.
It's actually funny because like what do you think of the cast? I remember we kind of discussed it a little bit on the podcast, but I actually thought like, you know what? The cast can work. Like
Absolutely.
Keegan as Toad
Is hilarious.
absolutely works. Cuz he has got that voice, sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't. And the funny thing is too is like if because they showed the promotional thing 2 days ago, and it's Mario looking off into the distance, which by the way, the poster's a banger. The poster looks sick.
Yeah.
But you have all these Toads here. I'm thinking he's gonna voice every single one, and like if he does the same voice for all of them, that's gonna be hilarious. If he does a different voice for all of them, it's gonna be hilarious. Like I think either way you're winning with it is the thing.
Oh yeah.
I I personally think it will be fine. I think a lot of people, at least on the internet sphere, they get worried or they get worked up about it because the studio that's making it, Illumination,
Yeah.
have a pretty big track record of pretty soulless, at least in the animation world, pretty soulless movies. Personally, I like Despicable Me, the first one. All the other ones are kind of meh. Minions are kind of annoying, but other than that, like I think with it being a Mario movie, with the casting choices that they currently have, and Nintendo kind of also being behind it as well, they obviously Mario's their baby. They're not just gonna let them run rampant with it and do whatever they want. This isn't the '80s anymore,
No. Well, that's the thing. Like Mario is actually under lock and key. Nintendo
Yeah.
is very protective of their IPs.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be I think it's going to be good. And honestly, I kind of hope that there's some cringe because that makes it better. If it's a boring, safe movie,
Yeah.
I think I would be more disappointed that way. I want it to embrace memes. I want it to not forcing it to the point where it makes me cringe to a point where I get upset, but like, just I want funny things. I want silly things. Do it. Do Donkey Kong doing the Seth Rogen laugh. I don't care.
Oh my god, that'd be pretty funny.
Jack Black is Bowser. Like it doesn't get better than that, man. And I think Chris Pratt Mario, as much as it seems really silly, I think we'll be okay. I think we'll survive. And I hope that I don't know. I hope that it turns some heads, but I also hope that the movie actually turns out good. I don't
Yeah.
know. I think in terms of like a lot of stuff like that with movies that are kind of backed by studios with like a bad reputation. Like it doesn't mean that those studios aren't worth redemption.
Yeah, no.
In terms of like animation, and especially in recent years, best one to point a finger at is Sony Pictures Animation. They came out with the fucking Emoji Movie, and then their next movie after that, genuinely one of the best animated movies of all time, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Like
Oh, so good.
it doesn't matter as long as you have a good team of directors and voice directors and stuff like that. Like it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be good. I don't think the Mario movie is supposed to make me like cry or like go damn like that's cinema. It's like no, it's gonna be a goofy kind of made for kids and families, but it's also gonna be like it's Mario the Wahoo Yahoo man. It's gonna
Yeah.
get a little wacky, and I'm excited. I'm here for it.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people are kind of worried or wondering why didn't they get, Charles Martinet, or I
Hmm.
believe that's his
Hmm.
name. But the thing they got to realize too is that, well, first of all, it's Hollywood. Charles isn't
Yeah,
really in Hollywood.
yeah,
But also, Charles, yes, he's the voice of Mario, but he's the voice of Mario like Yahoo, Wahoo.
yeah.
He doesn't have really speaking lines as Mario.
It's not a lot, and to be
Like,
honest
let's
with
a
you, like,
go.
yeah. Well, it's funny because recently there was a game for the 3DS. I think it was like 2017, 2018. It was WarioWare Gold, and you kind of got to hear Charles Martinet speak as Wario in like full, complete, like sentences and stuff. And it's kind of funny, and I think a lot of people have sort of pointed this out. Is like when you start to hear him do the voice for a long time and like speaking in full sentences, you kind of realize why they're mainly just they make sounds.
Yeah,
And also why like yeah, sometimes it's okay to just have a different voice actor. I mean, the other franchise that I love to death is the Sonic franchise. They go through voice actors like every 5 to 10 years. So it's fine for Mario to have a different voice for the movie go around.
yeah,
I kind of wish that the status quo on voice actors was a little different. Like the truth is that with a lot of these movies nowadays, yeah, they're always gonna choose Hollywood voice over actual like voice actors. And I think to each their own. For me, I think it's a little unfortunate because I think there's a lot of voice talent that could like really that deserve a lot of those big roles.
for
But at the
sure.
same time, it's like it is what it is. It is what it is, and it doesn't mean that the Hollywood talent that mainly do normal acting aren't worthy of doing voice acting. There are different types of acting, but they can go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like there's a lot of like guys that are doing, anime, like Christopher Sabat, and like
Mhm.
like Charles. Can't remember who I was thinking of there, but there's a lot of voice actors that are really good talents, but the thing is, no, your mainstream people don't know them. But then
Yeah,
if they see Chris Pratt on the poster showing up number one,
yeah,
then they're like,
yeah,
oh, Star Lord, Guardians of the Galaxy,
yeah. I like him.
Jurassic World, everything. That's he's a huge star right now. So
Yeah,
what they did with that over like Charles, for example, is that was we got to sell a movie.
yeah.
So that's what
And
we're
like
doing.
at the end of the day, like that's always what it's gonna be. They're
Yeah.
trying to sell a movie to as much people as they can. In this case, it's like, bro, it's a Mario movie. That shit it will not fail. Ain't no way.
No.
If the Sonic movie is like the highest performing video game movie of all time, specifically, I think Sonic 2 broke more records. Um, Honestly, I think with what they have started with this Mario movie, like it's probably gonna top it.
Yeah, probably.
realistically.
Did you like the Sonic
I
movies?
okay. Oh yes, I did. I did. The Sonic One movie I enjoyed. I laughed at a lot of parts because I personally I like Jim Carrey. I think he's
Oh,
funny.
oh, me
And I
too.
think yeah, and yeah, I could name a bunch of scenes in that movie that like genuinely made me laugh out loud. Like it was good. It was good. But I think my biggest complaint was at the end of the day you could have swapped out Sonic with any other just random animal buddy from like a different planet and like it kind of would have worked. But with Sonic 2, they really implemented and honed in on like the fan service factor as well as like just actual like in-game lore. So and that was like really dope. So Sonic 2 way better. Sonic 1 was like a just a good video game movie. Sonic 2, I've always said this, Sonic 2 is a good Sonic movie. I enjoyed it a lot.
I actually haven't watched the second one yet. I really want to because I really liked the first one. I thought it was good. And
Oh, if you like, here's the thing, because I was the same. I liked the first one too. If you liked the first one, like for me as a Sonic fan, of course, like I loved it, but
yeah,
still, you'll have more respect for the second one because of what it does do. They really do a lot better with everything basically.
yeah. Well,
Still, the parts with the humans are kind of the most boring, but you kind of just want to see more Sonic. But it's still like, oh, there's so much stuff. You're just like, God damn, this is great.
that
And
was
then there's stuff at the ending too. It's hype. It's hype.
oh yeah. That's one thing I was gonna say. They with that first movie, that was probably one of the first movies where the fans corrected the studio and they actually listened because
Yeah, yeah, and that was
I
huge.
feel bad for those animators, unfortunately. But like for real though, what were you doing?
Yeah.
why did they make him look the way they did? It didn't make sense. Just
Well,
take
and it's funny too because like a lot of people have this really silly thing. They just don't understand how it works. So I get it, but they have this funny fantasy that like they did it on purpose and that they made him ugly and then they were like, "Oh, it's okay. We'll just delay the movie." No, 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 no. They had they had merchandise done. They had a bunch of shit ready. Like they were like, yes, this is how Sonic's gonna look in the movie, and it's crazy because like some of that merchandise still exists, and it's uncanny.
oh my
It is
god,
uncanny. Yeah. Um.
I want that
No, that was
merchandise.
yeah. Well, I remember I saw there was a mask of the original Sonic design, and then I think there were like test versions of like McDonald's toys or something like that. Like they were small little toys. And they were of the original design and bruh, oh my lord. But it's good. Then they actually went to Tyson Hess, which is like a uh an avid Sonic artist. And they went to him for like the redesign and yeah, it's way better. It's cool. It's really cool. I don't know if we'll ever see something like that again because it literally killed the animation studio that was working on the movie, which is really sad, but hey, they did it.
Yeah, they should have. I feel like a lot of these things when they figure out the source, they need to figure out the source material more,
Yeah.
and ignore. We talk about this a lot on this podcast, but one of my favorite movies of all time is Doom, the Doom
Mm.
movie with The Rock from like
The
'06.
Rock, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it has nothing to do with Doom. Like when you like besides characters and likenesses and the monsters likenesses, but
Yeah.
there's no portal to hell, right? It's all science fiction, and I think a lot of that they did um to not piss off religious groups, but
Right.
either way, it was such a campy and fun movie that we're just able to enjoy it for what it's worth, you know?
So that's exactly it is and this kind of goes with a lot of entertainment is um and I think a lot of times this is just a precursor to what I'll say. I think a lot of times people really try to be as objective as they can when it's like, bro, it's all subjective. It's all just dependent on like your experience with it, your background, whatever. Even culture has something to do with it. For me, I've always been in the camp of as long as it's entertaining. I think you could and as a Sonic fan, I could definitely say as long as it's entertaining, that will affect how I view the product. For example, like if a game is polished, a game is finished, but it is boring. The writing is bad. I'm not entertained. At the end of the day, it's entertainment and I'm not entertained. To me, that is a way worse, way worse product
Yeah.
than if, say, they released it unfinished in a horrible state that's incomplete, but I can see that they had passion. I can see that they had an idea. Maybe their ideas were too grandiose. Maybe there were other powers at bay that ruined it for them. Usually this happens with a lot of game studios. They have the higher ups that are like, hey, we need this game out by Christmas, and then bam, they release Sonic 06, you know? And then
Yeah.
that's how you that's exactly it though, is like something like I played Sonic 06 on stream. That game is horrible. No shit. Like it's not finished, but that's exactly it. It's not finished. And
Yeah.
what I did play of the game, I could see like they tried to tell this grandiose story. You know, it didn't really work. There's a lot of like just awful stuff, but it also makes me laugh because of how horrible it is. And in its own right, that's entertainment. That's funny. It's memorable. I look at a game like the newest one that they released was called Sonic Forces, and that game is 2 hours long, and it is painfully a slog. 2 hours and it's a slog. That tells you everything you need to know. Um, the idea is that like Sonic gets captured by Eggman, and then he gets tortured. He's been tortured brutally for like a year, and then it it doesn't show you this. It tells you it in text, and then it goes to the next scene, and it it's just him in a cell, and he's like, "Oh boy, I think it's time for me to get out of here." And it's like, bro, you aren't tortured. Like, and here's the thing. I didn't need to see him get brutally tortured in a prison cell. It's just in storytelling, it's always show, don't tell. When you tell me something, but then you don't show me, even showing me that he has been would have been better, but you're not showing me anything. I was not entertained. And that's ultimately it. Like this Mario movie, it could be cringe. It could be really silly with a bunch of fart jokes or like, you know, Minions-esque humor.
Yeah.
But, you know, if there's some funny jokes, or Jack Black goes, yeah, or some shit, or I hear fucking Keegan-Michael Key just being Keegan-Michael Key as a Toad, like I think it will be enough. I think it'll be enough, honestly.
Yeah. If it's sometimes you don't do it for the quality, you do it for the meme, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and that's kind of how we feel about the old Doom movie.
Right.
It's just very quotable. Like there's so many lines from that we quote all the time, and it's just like
Absolutely.
Objectively, yeah, it's probably a horrible movie, but
Yeah.
but it's a fun movie, and it's got Carl Urban in it.
Yeah. Well, and who wants to judge things based off of a fucking checklist, you know?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I would just rather feel what I feel in the moment, and then hey, maybe upon a rewatch I realize some things and I'm like, "Oh, I don't really like this." And like that's okay too. It's okay to change your mind on stuff. But I think exactly the same thing like Doom with a lot of other certain stuff. Like it's it you know, it might not be the most perfectly sound product that you've seen or whatever, but if I enjoyed my time with it and I wasn't looking at the clock like, holy crap, when is this over? I think it did its job, you know?
Yeah. Did you ever play Sonic.exe?
Yeah. Back when that was a thing, my friend showed it to me. She's like, dude, you have to come over and play this new game. And I played it and I was like, this is kind of scary. I was like, I can't. I was like in middle school. So I was like, yeah, I still don't really play a lot of horror games. I'm better
Yeah.
now. Like I got into the Resident Evil franchise and that changed me, man. I have a different respect for horror now as an adult. And also knowing how like movie stuff works, I just there's some cool shit. There's some cool shit. So it'd be funny going back and playing that now. Maybe if I played it in like a dark room with headphones on, I'd get more in the moment and be like, "Oh, spooky." But yeah, I did play that as a youngin. It was fun,
Well, like
silly.
honestly, that I think I speak for everybody in the video game community when I say that the underwater Sonic music that plays when you're running out of air is the most
Yeah.
anxiety-ridden music probably in the world.
Yeah, it's they did that's once again going to the whole sound design music thing. They did their job.
Yeah.
100% they did their job. Like how you that's how you make a good jingle. Man, fuck, I could talk about Sonic music all day. They kill it with most of their soundtracks. Even in the bad games, soundtracks always slap.
Oh
I think that
yeah.
also propels it.
I would agree with that. I really like the Sonic music. And what would you say is your favorite video game soundtracks of all time?
I was gonna ask you this at the start, and I was like, you know what, we'll get there some point.
Oh yeah,
So
here we
okay,
go.
so my favorite of all time, I would say, um, there's a couple. It's funny. I'll go with the Sonic ones first because like they are some of my favorites.
Yeah.
Uh, I think my favorite, I'd say my top two because, and it's funny because they're my top two games as well. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. Had music from Michael Jackson. That one just they go hard. The music goes hard in that game. The Genesis sound chip just sounds amazing. It's great.
Oh fuck yeah.
Uh, and then the other one would be Sonic Adventure 2 because that has Live and Learn and Escape from the City. So those are just bangers in themselves. But then also like I listen to the Sonic Adventure 2 soundtrack like every couple of days, especially on stream, just because every character had a different genre for like their music. So
Right.
like Sonic was his normal like butt rock. It was awesome. Tails was sort of more like dreamy and pop like, I guess, but still had like the rocking guitars and everything. Shadow was like a lot of drum and bass and like still some more rock, but it went a little bit harder. Um, Eggman was like industrial and like
Of course.
still a lot of them have like rock influence, but his was like rock influence with a little bit of industrial noise and stuff. Really, really cool. And the two that I really like that I go back to, Knuckles had the fucking Knuckles raps and then like Pumpkin Hill and shit. And then Rouge had like jazz and funk. And it was like that's so cool. I think doing that with characters, like if I ever developed a game, I would love to do that where like the characters almost motifs are just genres of music, and like that's their thing. I thought that was super cool. Other than that, Donkey Kong Country has a great soundtrack,
Oh.
and Persona 5 has a great soundtrack.
Oh, I've never
It's
listened to Persona. I've never played Persona.
Persona 5 is the I'd say like your best one to start with just because it's the easiest to get into, and then if you like it, then like you can delve more into the series. I'd say if you want maybe a better story, I think Persona 4 has the better story.
Yeah.
But gameplay wise, Persona 5 is the best one to start with. And yeah, the music is, oh, it's fantastic, dude. Funky, jazzy, just great.
Yeah.
What about you
I
in terms of OSTs?
Well, I gotta say, I definitely agree with you on the whole Donkey Kong Country. I
Yeah.
like as a kid, I remember playing that when I was probably 4 years old, and like even as a 4 year old, like the Bramble Vine level,
Yeah.
that music, I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head right now.
I think if it's I don't know if it's Donkey Kong Country 1 or 2. Is it
I think
Sticker Bush Symphony?
it might be
The
that
one
one.
that's like
I think it's two.
okay, yeah, that's probably Sticker Bush Symphony, where it's like yeah, it's like dun 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 dun. I'm off pitch, but yeah, it's a good one. It's a really
Yeah,
good one.
it's really like yeah. Oh God, so good. But I think like my number one that I always think of for music off the top of my head right now is Super Mario 64.
Oh yeah,
Fuck is that
yeah,
a fuck is that soundtrack good?
yeah. It's iconic too. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy because recently I was kind of going through the Mario soundtracks, just kind of listening to them, and I was like, yeah, it's crazy to think that like the stuff that I grew up with like 64 and even just hearing the renditions and like because I grew up with the GameCube, so I played Super Smash Bros. Melee
Yeah.
and like the renditions of like the slide thing like "Pwee, pwee, 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 pwee." Like that it's so iconic. They're
So
just
good.
really good melodies that just stick in your head forever. And yeah, so it's like a childlike wonder whenever I listen to that stuff, man.
Yeah, well, Super Smash Brothers is a great example because that's like a mishmash of all the best music
Yeah.
while you're beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah, I think like in terms of if you wanted to go with the objective route, what has the best OSD? It'd be like Smash
Yeah.
Ultimate,
Yeah.
because you get every single thing like ever. It's awesome. You get Persona 5, you get Sonic, you get some Mega Man, you get even now they have Final Fantasy music finally
Yeah.
with like Sephiroth and everything. It's incredible. But,
I
obviously they're never gonna say like, oh, Smash Ultimate is like soundtrack of the year, because
no.
it's not like a bunch of original music, but it's
Yeah.
still it's great. It's awesome.
I just remember always in Smash Bros. Melee, just sitting on the very end of Great Fox, and I'm just Mr. Game Watch flipping my bacon.
Yeah. Yeah,
Flip.
Melee is great, dude. Melee is a classic. I was oh fuck. I'm trying to think. Uh yeah, I was going through my drawing book yesterday on stream, and it's funny because I played as Pichu, because Pichu is just such a funny little character.
Yeah,
He's one of the first things I ever drew was Pichu.
that's
Super
awesome,
funny.
dude.
Yeah.
So you have all your original sketches from for the time you started?
Yeah, I think in grade 1 my mom gave me a sketchbook when I was going to like summer camp. And she was like, "Yeah, just use this for like as a diary, and like keep track of like how your experience was." So for the first like 3 pages, I talk about like how I went on the trampoline, and I went zip lining, and I went swimming, and then I just stopped. And then from there, like however long it took me, I started I started writing down things because I was playing Paper Mario on my GameCube, and I would
Oh
get
yeah.
lost and confused. So I needed to start like jotting down notes on like what I needed to do. So I used it as a notebook for the game, which is super funny.
Was
So
that
those were like my,
oh sorry, was that Thousand Year Door or
yeah, Thousand Year Door, and that's like my favorite game of all time. Actually, okay, it's my second favorite game of all time. My first favorite game of all time is Metal Gear Solid 3.
oh MGS classic.
Yeah, dude, great game.
Yeah, that I was gonna say the um yeah, those are both great games.
Yeah.
Paper Mario is like it's it's kind of an underrated RPG. Everybody talks about what was the Super Nintendo one? It was Super Mario
So there
RPG.
was, yeah, Mario RPG. That game's great too.
Yeah,
That game's great
it
too.
is
But
great, but everybody talks about that one. But
yeah,
I find a lot of people kind of sleep on Paper Mario because they don't like the art style.
yeah. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Like, if you go online, there's like a any Paper Mario fan is like, this is the best one.
Yeah,
But anybody outside of the Paper Mario fandom, like, yeah, you're not gonna catch them talking about Paper Mario. They're not gonna be like, oh man, I love that. Like, if you didn't grow up playing it, you're probably not gonna be like, oh yeah, that game. I'm down the next Paper Mario that comes out. Like, but on the other side of things, there was also the Mario and Luigi RPGs. Those games were
yeah,
great.
Superstar Saga.
Superstar Saga, one of the
Yeah,
goats. I see, those are the games that I grew up with, and those are the RPGs that I grew up with. Any like even yeah, any RPGs that like I tried to play as a kid, it was just like, well, too much reading, and the combat was like you press a button and your guy doesn't move. With Mario and Luigi and Paper Mario, the thing that made them special was the fact that like the battles were engaging, because like you had the different button presses, button combinations, whatever, and like you could interact in order to dodge attacks and whatever. It was just cool. There was a lot more than just, oh, your luck stat. It was like, no, you actually are playing the game, and that's why it's like that's why Thousand Year Door is still like my top, like my second favorite game, because it's like, no, it did things really well. It has a very original soundtrack too. It's not something I go back and listen to, but it is very diverse in its own way, and it makes it really truly its own. I want to go play that game again, man. It's so good.
yeah, I definitely need to play that again. I I was a teenager, I guess, when I played the GameCube or young
Right,
teens. I'm 32 now, so
right.
my first RPG though was there. I had two of them at the same time, and it was Final Fantasy One, like the original
Oh
on
wow,
Nintendo, and then Dragon
right.
Warrior on NES.
Oh yeah. So literally the first Dragon Quest, or whatever Dragon Quest. It was
Yeah,
weird. Those games were different, because in Japan it was like Final Fantasy 1 in America was Japan's Final Fantasy 3, I think.
it
And I
was
think Dragon War,
it was
something like that, right?
it was
Four?
three and six.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there was, and then and then America got an exclusive called Mystic Quest,
Right. Yeah.
which was just a dumbed down RPG, so that your average consumer could figure it out. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there was Final Fantasy One, and then two, and then number 3 in America was actually 6.
Yes,
It was on the
right,
Super
right.
Nintendo. But then
Yeah.
and then there was 4, and then there was 5, and then they got an original release of 6, I think, later. It was a
Mhm.
big confusing thing. I can't remember.
Yeah, because later, and this happened with actually, it's very similar. It happened with Persona 2. Later on, they released the proper numbered games, but they were like remakes of them. So, because
Oh,
I have behind me, I have Final Fantasy 2 on PSP. But it's the actual Final Fantasy 2, not like
yeah.
Final Fantasy 4 or whatever, or 5, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, the PSP ports of Final Fantasy 1 and 2 were awesome.
Mm.
I would
Yeah,
say
and I still haven't even played it.
yeah, I would say those were those were the best ports of those games.
Mm,
The
that's fair.
but yeah, those were like it was only years later for Dragon Warrior, which is actually Dragon Quest.
Right.
But in America they call it Dragon Warrior for some reason.
I
And
think it was legal things, something about another like Dragon Quest thing that existed at the time. It's weird, actually. I like literally just saw a video on it a couple weeks ago, fresh
that
in my mind.
that would actually make sense. But the
Yeah,
thing that blew my mind years later, because obviously the cover art for Dragon Warrior is just this kind of weird green dragon, like a classic like 70s style
yeah,
RPG art from like Dungeons and
yeah,
Dragons of a warrior and a
yeah,
dragon. And but if you go to Japan, it's actually Akira Toriyama, the guy that
yeah, yeah,
did Dragon Ball. He did.
yeah. And he still does the art for all the Dragon Quest series. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
I think they're on 14 now or something.
Yeah, 14's the new one. They haven't
Yeah.
actually shown anything for it, but the trailer looked dark as hell. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Well, it's funny because after I played a game called Dragon Warrior Monsters, which was like
Mm.
my favorite Game Boy game. That's a sleeper hit. Nobody knows about those games, but it's called
Yeah,
Dragon Warrior Monsters, and it was basically Dragon Warrior but like Pokemon style. So
interesting.
yeah, you were a monster tamer, and you would tame the Dragon Warrior monsters to fight for you,
So when you
Pokemon
say
style.
Dragon Warrior, was that still like the whole branding thing of the time? So it was actually
Yeah,
Dragon Quest?
yeah, exactly. It was still
That's
this.
cool.
Yeah, it was the same property. I don't think it was till like the 2000 something that they actually changed it to Dragon Quest.
Yeah,
But
that's
that,
still cool though.
yeah, oh, that was a fun game, and like I looked at the box art to that one because it had the actual Japanese box art, and I'm like, hey, this dragon looks like the dragon from Dragon Ball,
Yeah,
like the one that like Goku would cut off its tail or whatever,
yeah.
like just not Shenron, but the little throwaway dinosaur enemies.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah,
like, this looks like the dragon. And then I did some research on the old internet, and I'm like, oh
yeah,
my god, Akira Toriyama did all this art from Dragon Warrior Monsters and like all the way back to the original. And I'm like, oh my god, it blew my mind. I'm like,
yeah, yeah. Like that's a mind blowing thing when you're younger.
yeah, because on the first one, like on the very first Dragon Quest, you don't really know because it's all pixel. They took his art and turned it into pixel, so you can't really see the original art in
Yeah,
the game. But now that I've played like there was a remake on the Switch of Dragon Quest, the original,
yeah,
and the enemy sprites are just literally Akira Toriyama's drawings. And I'm like, ah, this looks exactly like
yeah.
it's like I'm playing
There it
Dragon Ball.
is. Yeah, no, it's very cool. It's funny too because it's Dragon Quest, Dragon Ball,
I
bunch
know,
of
right?
dragons.
I think Akira Toriyama just likes dragons.
Yeah, he likes his dragons, man.
Are you excited for the new Breath of the Wild game? Did you see the
Yeah,
trailer for
yeah, I
that?
am.
I
So I've been watching intensely to kind of get myself hyped up. And it's funny because I've been like, okay, yeah, game's coming out this year. Then it got delayed, and I was like, okay, yeah, it got delayed. And then they showed a trailer. I was like, yeah, there's a little teaser. It's like it's just another teaser. Um, but then on my little subathon that we just did on my Twitch there, my friend and I, when we did the speed race in Breath of the Wild, I was like, damn, I love this game.
yeah.
Like starting it over just in a new file and like just playing around, I was like, oh my god, this game is freaking amazing, and I forgot. And now I'm like, oh boy, now I'm excited. And it's gonna be interesting because I'm gonna be in school at the time, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's when I'll let the grades dip a little.
Oh, dude, I'm excited for Breath of the Wild too. I really liked the first one, But the only problem I
Yeah.
had with it was that I did not like the lack of dungeons. The
Yeah, that's fair. That's very
the lack
fair.
of the lack of classic like Zelda dungeons. I just felt like that was something it needed. But like as far as the game goes for like open world exploration, it's awesome. There's
Yeah.
like I remember climbing the one little mountain and I'm like my natural gamer brain comes on. I'm like, there's probably nothing up here. It's just a dead zone. But no, there's
Yeah.
like a Cyclops boss up there, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
right on. And
No, and that
he's
was the thing. Like you go and explore and it's like I spent the first half of the game, I barely even went to like any of the dungeons because there's only four. So I was like, well, I have all the time in the world. Like it's only four. It's not a big deal. And maybe in hindsight that actually helped, but I went and I got every tower first.
yeah,
So I went to every little region just to go explore. And then after a certain point I was like, okay, this is kind of like taking many hours and I'm kind of getting like not fatigued, but I was like, okay, I need to clearly get a little bit stronger. So I went to go do like the first one, and then I started the game and actually got things going. But over time, I was like, okay, let's go to like these new areas and get to the towers. And just every time you would find something remarkable, something like, oh wow, like this is, it was a magical experience, is what I'll say. I think like when you're a kid it almost Breath of the Wild gave me what every game could have given me when I was a kid. And I think that's a
yeah,
weird way of describing it, but like that's the truth is like when you're a kid, you don't really know much else. You're like, oh well, I wonder what will happen. Go and play the game, or you get stuck on a level for like a month, you know, or you just never beat a game for years on end. In this case, it was like, and it worked out for me because, as you know, I was working at HMV,
yeah.
and it had just closed like about a week or two after Breath of the Wild came out. I didn't give a fuck. I was like, okay. I was like, I might be. I knew by that time I was losing my job, but I knew way before then that the Switch was coming. So I was like, I don't give a damn. I was like, I am buying the Switch day one. I'm getting the game. I'm getting a case, and I'm like, I will be broke for a month. I don't care. I need this, and it was awesome because then that month I lost my job. I just literally spent a month playing Breath of the Wild up until so it came out March 3rd and my birthday's on April 18th. I beat that. I decided I was like, I'm going to play the shit out of this game and I'm going to beat it on my birthday. So my birthday came around and that's the day I finally beat it. So it took me about a month and a half. And it was great. That game lasted me a month and a half of just going to school, playing it when I had time, coming home, playing it when I got home. You know what I mean? Like it was just a magical experience, and I loved every second of it.
Oh yeah,
And
it's
I'm really hoping I get that from the new one, basically.
oh yeah for sure. And I did you find the 900 Korok seeds?
No, it's actually funny because when I went back and played it recently, I realized I was like, yeah, I didn't actually do everything that I thought I did because like I'm still missing a bunch of shrines. I'm
Yeah.
still missing, obviously, a bunch of Korok seeds. So during the subathon, I took like a couple hours. Like, you know what? Let's go and explore the world because like I am just gonna be here at my desk for the next however many hours. Let's just give it a shot. And I'm so glad that I did because in that time I found like two shrines and like that was just me going, okay, here's an area that I've never been to for some reason. And it was like a beach at the bottom of the map. I was like, well, how have I never been to this beach? I go down to this beach and there's like, oh, there's a lady who wants a picture of a guardian. And I'm like, oh, well, that's simple. So I go to a place that has some guardians. I take some pictures of guardians. I come back, find her, bam, and I get this shrine. And I was just like, oh, like this is awesome. I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
It was cool. I found something new. I got to that thing that was new. I finished it. I was like, okay, I accomplished something in this game. Like this is awesome. So I would like to like actually try and 100% it
Oh yeah.
before the new game comes out. That's hard, but I would like to.
Oh, yeah, it's excessive. Like like I said, the 900 Korok seeds, it's crazy. And but I do love that game.
Yeah.
But do you know what my favorite Zelda game of all time is though? And I get shit for this all.
Uh,
I get shit for this all the time.
my guess is going to be Majora's Mask.
No, that's a good one though. But my
Okay.
my favorite is Wind Waker.
Okay, no, yeah, I would like that.
Love that
Who
game
who
so
gives you shit for
much.
that? Who gives you shit for that? People love that game nowadays.
Okay, so here's the thing. When it first came out,
Yeah.
I got it because Zelda, because I love Zelda.
Yep.
But I remember thinking, because I had a Nintendo Power Sub at the time, but I remember thinking
Yeah.
this art style I'm not a big fan of. It was
Nobody was.
cartoony, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But then I played it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is the best game ever.
Yeah. It's very good. It's very, very good.
And
It's phenomenal.
sailing the seas, finding random towers,
Yeah.
like the story is laid out, but it's like very like there's enough side quests and weird shit going on that you can, it's just a fun game, and there's so many little things like collecting pigs, and you can piss off the pigs and they'll attack you like the chickens, like
Yeah.
the cuckoos from Ocarina of Time.
Yeah. It was awesome.
And
And
like,
sometimes there was the one pig that farted.
oh yeah, yeah, that's right. And I remember like
Yeah.
the fat pig, you could pick him up, but only if you
You
had
needed
the
the
giant's
power
bracelet or
bracelet.
power. Yeah,
Yeah.
power bracelet was called in that game. That's right. But it was like it was good, and it had like a solid combat system. It had like
Yeah, it did. It really did.
yeah, it had the flourish system, and also I will say this: the ending scene where Ganondorf, like, you've beaten it, right?
Yeah, yeah, I beat
Okay,
it.
I was like, spoiler alert, but
Yeah, spoiler alert for
spoiler for
those.
anybody. But yeah, at the end, like when you do that final flourish and you lunge the sword into his head, and then like
Yep.
he like
It's
laughs while he turns to stone. I'm like,
Cherries
oh,
to Stone. It's incredible. Yeah, it's
it gives me chills every time.
yeah. No, that game. Yeah, that game is awesome. Personally, like I like most of the Zelda games. I'd say. I my favorite for a long time was Twilight Princess. I really like that one.
Yeah,
But I've played it. I've played it. I honestly, I'd say I've probably beat that one the most. But it actually isn't my favorite. For me, I'd say my favorite is Majora's Mask,
yeah,
and I've only beat that one once. But I think there's something about the world that they created, and the fact that everybody is going through their sort of routines on the 3 day cycle. Once I understood how that sort of worked, and like I was playing through it and everything,
yep,
I realized I was like, oh, this is yeah, game a lot. And yeah, even just the mechanic of like the time mechanic, figuring out, oh hey, there's like this character who does this on this day. You figure it out, you're like, okay, I'm gonna need to bring this mask to them on whatever day at this time. The 3DS version, the remake
oh,
helped a lot.
so
It
good.
really yeah, it helped with organization, and to me I think that's sort of what lifted it over the top for me for like, okay, this is my favorite. But like I still have a huge soft spot for Ocarina of Time because like that is the one that I grew up playing.
Yeah,
Uh, Wind Waker's just genuinely like one of the best games, especially if you play the HD version on the Wii U, because then you have the quick sale, and there was a lot of other stuff at the time that was really dope.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. The quick sale is that's a real
it's a
quality of life thing.
lifesaver, and they fixed the Triforce hunt at the end of the game, which was really dope. So there's a lot of stuff like that that was really nice in the HD version. Um, but like yeah, I think because they made in the 2010s they made all those remakes for like every single game, and it was like, oh, like they've made all these games so much better, and they were already like classics in their own right. It's crazy. And then the awesome thing is you can still go back and play the original version.
Oh yeah, I want them to make a. I would like for them to make a remake for the Switch. Like, well, not even a remake, just a port. I'd like them to port all those Zelda games to the Switch.
Right.
I'd play the fuck out of that. Because yeah,
No, I'm hoping that they do. It's kind of lame that the only thing I've done so far is Skyward Sword. So here's
yeah.
hoping.
And Skyward Sword, personally, to me, is one of the weaker titles.
Yeah, it had actually what I would say is it's this weird like balancing act that some of the games struggle with. It had the worst, I would say, pacing, um, and even just like the structure of the game was really flawed.
Yeah.
However, it had the best story and had the best stakes.
And
Uh,
it had a toilet hand.
yeah, toilet hand. Yeah, I like the toilet hand.
The
Yeah.
yeah, I have mad love for also yeah, like I said, the classics like on the NES and
See, for me,
Link to the
I,
Past.
I respect Link to the Past. I struggle with NES 1 and 2 because really those games yeah, you know what? I'll just say those games like you need a strategy guide. Those are
Yeah.
those are still of the time where it's like if you didn't have a strategy guide, this I guess it's sort of like Breath of the Wild, except now we live in so it's a but you know, you were going to friends and like, okay, like what did you find, you know? And like, oh, like you did this and you found this. Oh, there's like a burning bush. I don't know.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And I think that was the cool thing about Breath of the Wild is it brought back that magic that like you don't really get with a lot of games nowadays. The difference is, yeah, you could still go online and look stuff up, but at the time when Breath of the Wild came out at the very least, like day one, nah, you couldn't look up shit. Like there you could not look up shit. There was still stuff that people and still to this day people are still finding stuff in that game. It's crazy.
Oh
Um
yeah, and the speed runs are nuts too.
yeah, all the glitches and stuff people are finding, it's awesome. I kind of wish I was more involved in that because when it was first starting up, I was like, "Oh, this is so cool." But I had already beaten the game. I was already like, "Yeah, I'm." So I didn't really get into it, but I wish I did. It's not too late, but at this time it kind of feels too late, you know.
Yeah, maybe you'll do a speed run for the Breath of the Wild, the second one. The
Yeah, Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that game looks awesome.
No, it really
I'm excited
does.
for that. So I figured I'd close it out today with it's a question I like to I like to ask kind of anybody who likes games or gaming, and that's most of my friends.
Absolutely.
Most of my friends, but I know you're younger than my a lot of my friends, but
Yeah, that's fine.
so I think it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts on this. But I always think it's interesting to ask people, what do you feel like, or how do you feel about, gaming hitting the mainstream, and like compared to when you were in high school, we'll say. Again, I went to high school, at a different time than you, but when I went to high
Yeah.
school, typically, it was very frowned upon to be a gamer. And,
Right.
I also went to school in a small town, so that made it worse.
Yeah,
But
that
like,
does not help.
but even when I was in the city, I know there's a lot of people, I remember wearing to grade 7 this Charmeleon hat. I had a Charmeleon hat because he was one of my faves, and
Yeah.
I got viciously bullied for wearing it,
Jesus
and it
Christ.
was the worst, dude. And for gaming, people would call us losers for playing our Game Boys at recess and stuff. And
Yeah.
like people were vicious, dude. So, but I feel like the world's had a weird correction, especially in the last since 2010, that like Pokemon and all this other stuff, gaming in general is kind of the mainstream, and people, I don't feel like they're ostracized. And I kind of see both sides of the argument. There's people that are kind of hateful about it, like they're kind of like, I got made fun of for wearing Pokemon, but now
Yeah.
these, chicks are shaking their ass in Pikachu
Yeah.
underwear
And the
on,
Pikachu undies.
yeah,
Yeah.
on TikTok and getting millions of dollars, and they're not called losers. But like, what do you think about that? Like, were you frowned upon for your interest in video games, or
No,
were people not so vicious?
so I grew up in the 2000s. I started kindergarten like 2004. So like I am pretty young.
Right.
At the time I would say for us video games were very normal. And people when we were kids at the very least, like nobody was ever like you like this, like that's kind of stupid. You know, sometimes they would be, but it'd be with specific stuff. To be honest, like at recess, well, at this point in time, video games were banned at like schools, so like you couldn't bring your Game Boy or whatever. We would still bring it on the bus and play like Game Boy and play our DSs on the bus, but um, it was very normal. At this point, it was actually already very normal for most kids to have it, and especially I guess you can definitely thank the DS and the Wii for that, because imagine 2004 the DS came out, but 2006 the DS Lite came out. So around the time I was in grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, everybody was sort of just getting DSs, and it became a very normal thing because you had stuff like Cooking Mama and Mario Kart DS and
Fuck
Picto
yeah.
Chat, and you had Wii Sports. Like everybody wanted these things. Um, and especially for us, then Pokemon Diamond was coming out. You didn't need all the coins and shit, so you could just do everything wirelessly. So I'll say like I'm definitely fortunate because I grew up in a time where like yeah, it was already becoming normal
Yeah.
by the time that I was still a child. Doesn't mean that there were some people who like you get the preps and like the sports kids who are like there's more to life than video games, like okay have fun, and it's like whatever, though guys, those guys are just assholes entirely. Like it wouldn't make a difference if I was playing video games or if I liked to read. Like they probably would just be like that because they're a meathead, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of you were sort of saying there's people who kind of take that stuff to heart and go, "Oh my God, you were made fun of."
Well,
Like, "Oh my God." For me,
yeah.
I would always just say some things are of the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I right now we live in a time where video games are and I think instead of focusing on like, oh man, like it used to be so much worse, just be like, yo, thank God it ain't the same. Because
Yeah.
if it was 20 years later and people were still like that, it would be fucking stupid. I think the video game industry would just be dead at that point. But that's the thing; it didn't die. Things caught on. People enjoy video games. It's an escape for a lot of people, and there's so many different types of video games that like it's just a celebrated thing. I think the only thing that's worried me about video games becoming a mainstream, sorry, is the commercialization of it. Is the microtransactions, the not I'm not saying esports is a bad thing, but even the commercialization of esports and the I'm sure you heard when this happened of the I think it was Hearthstone tournament in China, and somebody said like free Hong Kong, and then Blizzard
Right.
like banned them and took away their money. Stuff like that. Everything nowadays is become a money thing, which once again goes back to what we were talking about the Mario movie. At the end of the day, these are businesses and they are about their money. And I
Yeah.
guess at that point, that's where as a gamer, as a person who enjoys video games, that's where I look to indie games and I look to those games to sort of get that fulfillment of video games as an art. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously, when we played games as kids, we weren't looking for it as an art. But the truth of the matter is, like, it's become more mainstream, and a lot of titles now don't have the same ambition that they had when we were younger. And to me, that I think the products that we're receiving in the game sphere matter more than what is accepted. And that's the thing is like I've still met people who are like, and they're usually just old and they're like, oh, fucking video games, meh, 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 meh." But it's like, well, who
Yeah.
fucking cares? Like you're gonna be dead in a couple, but but like but like in terms of people our age and even younger, like it's nothing but a good thing that it's becoming more of a common thing and it's literally the highest grossing entertainment.
Oh yeah,
um
it's huge.
like it's that's awesome.
Uh,
um but I do hope, like, that's the thing I like about a game like Breath of the Wild, even Mario Odyssey, even if it's not put on the same league as Breath of the Wild. Like those games need to push boundaries and like uh listen to the fans and listen to uh the times at hand and make something brand new and make something like innovative. um that to me is like what's most important with it becoming mainstream.
Yeah, and I think that's what Satoru Iwata said. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago, but
Yeah, rest in
he
peace.
yeah, he said like a video game at the end of the day has to be only one thing, and that's fun. And
Yeah,
that's exactly how I feel about it. And some people are so caught up in, graphics and all that stuff
yeah, that stuff's stupid.
that they forget that other people have different art forms, they have different likes and tastes, and like if it's fun, it's fun. That's all
Yeah.
you should worry about. And as far as the whole, like I was saying about getting bullied and stuff for Pokemon stuff, my only thing for that whole era was that it was funny when Pokemon Go became mainstream,
Yeah.
and I saw the same people that were literally viciously bullying me in
Yeah.
school were making posts on Facebook saying, "Add me on Pokemon Go. I love this.
Yeah.
I love this shit."
Yeah.
So I got kind of vindictive about that. I'm like, "Oh, it's cool now, eh?"
Yeah.
But deep down, my ultimate thing is like, I'm glad that my kids will grow up in a
Yes.
world where it's accepted. I'm not, I call it the bitter boomer because
Yeah.
it's just people that are bitter. Like, they're just like, my life was hell. Your life has to be hell. No, that's not
Yeah.
true.
That's
We're
yeah, that's always
all,
what they think.
yeah, we're always getting better. And
Yeah.
just because I got bullied for liking Pokemon in middle school, doesn't mean that my kid needs to do that. Like, it's
Yeah.
good that things are going, not necessarily mainstream, but it's good that they're getting accepted.
Yeah,
And
I guess at that point too, I can say just one last thing is I did, however, grow up in the time of brown games. And what I mean by brown games, it sounds kind of funny. I'm talking like the days of Modern Warfare and 2, where like every game wanted to be dark, gritty, brown, and like ugly and like grown up and mature. That was the only shitty thing that I grew up in, was that phase of like,
oh yeah.
oh, if it's not brown and set in Afghanistan, I don't want your fucking Mario game. But that was my middle school experience. And
Yeah.
like and it was funny because once we got to high school and the Switch came out, this was like my last year of high school at this point. Everybody had a Switch. Everybody still to this day, everybody loves Smash, everybody loves Mario Kart. You know what I mean? Um, some people are just more diehard into that the colorful games than others, and that's me. I like the colorful games, I like the games that.
Yeah.
But
And I
yeah,
think I think everybody has their own taste, and I think that's good.
yeah,
And I'll tell you this quick story before we leave, but it's
yeah,
it's just I've told it on here before, but I just think it's funny. I think you'll get a kick out of it. But I was a huge World of Warcraft player back in the day,
right,
from like
yeah,
from like launch till Wrath of the Lich King. A little bit of cataclysm, anyways, there was this girl, again, I won't name her, but she was a very popular girl in high school.
Mhm.
But she would come to me, who was one of the losers, for World of Warcraft advice
That's awesome.
after school, because she was too embarrassed to let her friends know
Okay,
that she's addicted to playing this game. And I
yeah.
just remember she came up to me, and I'm like, "Why is this person talking to me?" And then she's like, "You play World of Warcraft, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Why are you talking to me?" And then she's like, "Okay, I'm addicted, and I need to know what spec should I go with my warlock?" And I'm like, "Is this real?"
That's funny as hell.
So it was, but she said, like, "Yeah, we got to keep this low key." And I'm a nice guy. I'm not gonna, rat
Yeah.
her out
Hey,
to her friends.
everybody.
But I just feel, I almost felt sad for her that she couldn't be herself around her friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she had to hide that part of herself.
Yeah, and I don't.
Yeah,
I never believed in that. I was exactly who I was. I'm just like,
same.
whatever. I like WoW. I'm gonna tell people I play it. I don't care. Me,
Yeah, I'm a Sonic fanboy for life, sadly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, Sonic's a great series.
it's fun. I have fun with it, and I enjoy the blue bastard,
Fuck yeah.
even if the game sucks sometimes.
Even Knuckles Chaotix.
Oh yeah, baby. Nothing but the Nux.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it was great having you on today, man.
Dude, thank you very much for inviting me. This was really cool. It was nice to chat about everything from the music to the art to the games and everything, man. It's fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, man. It always it's always nice to talk to like a fellow gamer and people. I want to talk to people who are passionate about what they do, and I feel like you're one of the guys that I know that's just like, I can tell by the way you post and on your streams
Yeah.
and stuff. Like, you just did a 38-hour stream.
Yeah, no, so it I had to restart at 38 hours because my computer crashed. We actually went for the full 48.
Okay, did you sleep?
Yeah, I slept.
Okay,
I slept for I want to say like 6 hours. I slept for 6 hours, but we did it. I felt like a crackhead the next day.
so how long was the stream altogether then?
Altogether it was 48 and a half because
It,
I stayed an extra 30 minutes because I just was having a lot of fun.
that's awesome, dude. So what did you do while you slept though? Did somebody
So
else?
I No, and I was thinking about having somebody else run it, but it was so early in the morning. I was like, I would. So uh, I basically just made a playlist of all my old videos on YouTube.
Yeah,
Which, by the way, people listening, DannoTheArtist on all the socials. That's including YouTube. That's including Twitch. Um,
go
and
follow him.
I played all of my videos starting from like my first highlight stream highlight basically, and then I just played that out for like a good amount of hours. Went to bed. Woke up at like I don't know 10 in the morning. I think I had been yeah I think I stayed up until like 2 or 3 or something like that. Went to bed. Woke up at yeah, I want to say like 8, and I was like, oh, I need more sleep. I did not want to get up.
Yeah,
We went back at it, and then yeah, we kept the stream going, got more subs. It was fucking awesome. But yeah, just played my old videos until I woke up. It was great.
Dude, that's epic.
Yeah,
Well,
it worked out really well.
it was great to have you on, man. I love you, brother, and yeah, just
Yeah, thank you.
let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at DannoTheArtist. That's on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. It's the branding everywhere. Big shout out. Your username is Code Man, right? Code Manliness,
Yeah, it's
something like
actually
that.
on Twitch. I actually switched it to not rich, just bored. It's
Oh,
that's
okay, okay. So that's the branding now.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. My branding is all under not rich, just bored now.
Well, thank you, Not Rich Just Bored, because just a little bit of Danno lore here. Literally, you partially are the reason why I started streaming, bro.
Really?
I just want to tell this story right before we end.
Okay,
All
yeah.
right.
I want to hear
All right.
this.
Well, I just remember it was 3 a.m. on one random night, and I was perusing Facebook Marketplace, and when I see a Logitech 1080p webcam on sale for like $20 or whatever the fuck, it was super cheap. And I was like, no fucking way. And I'm like, okay, it's 3 a.m. No way this guy's gonna get back to me. So I messaged you. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm really trying to like get into streaming or whatever the fuck I said. I would
Yeah.
like really appreciate this webcam. And you're like, oh, dude, this is the funniest thing because this was 3 a.m. You messaged me at like the next day at noon, and you're like, good thing that you messaged when you did, because like 40 other people, or maybe this was when I went to come pick it up. You were like 40 other people messaged me about that webcam,
Oh,
and I
there's
was
so
just like,
many.
holy shit! I got that webcam, got it all set up, and from that point, I was like, I guess I'm ready to stream, and that was crucial because as soon as I had my webcam set up and like I felt comfortable with everything, I was like, I guess I'm gonna try like streaming now, like a streamer does. And
Yeah.
yeah, I have to say thank you because even though it was just you selling me it, it was still like if that hadn't happened, I probably wouldn't have bit the bullet and got it done. So now look where I am, over 1,000 followers, and we're still pushing.
Yeah, dude, you're doing so great, and I gotta say I support you, and that's why I wanted to have you on too, because I knew you're gonna do well because I had met you obviously when you were working in the mall,
Yeah,
and like you're just a really nice guy. It's when you had your
thank
big
you.
ass fro.
Yeah, it's still a part of the branding too. I don't usually keep it that long anymore, but it's still part of the branding, the afro.
Yeah, it's purple now. Hey,
Yeah, the hair's purple. It's
yeah,
fucking awesome.
love it. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
that 920. If you ever, I guess I do have my original YouTube channel, which is Code Manliness, and
Yeah.
that's where I recorded a lot of those old YouTube horror gameplays and stuff. That's all vintage. Those are like 10 years old,
Yeah.
some of them, and most
The
of those,
classics.
yeah, a lot of those were recorded on that C920. So the legacy lives on.
Yes, it does, brother. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Well, I once again have to say thank you for having me on. And to anybody watching this, I hope you have a good day.
Yes. Thanks, guys, for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Okay. Bye bye.